for me, my seeking it out purely came from curiosity to understand what it is everybody was talking about. It wasn't from a like, oh, I'm going to masturbate and this is what I want to do. It was simply like, what is sex, and like what does it feel like, and what is the person thinking about? And so I actually started on these like erotic personal stories. I honestly, I have not looked it up in a long time, but I think that there was this website called like Sexy Dirty Stories or like True Dirty Stories. And I remember just reading through these things and like not getting turned on as a middle schooler or anything like that, but simply just purely out of curiosity. Like, oh, so, you know, this woman is talking about how she's getting really excited and she's nervous and there's this anticipation. And, you know, of course it talks about his size and like what it looks like. And then I think for me, it wasn't like I'm turned on. I think for me, I still have this like fascination about it. Like I'm just so fascinated by, I think, the experience of it, right? I wanted to understand like, what is this and what is considered this, you know, scandalous, sexy side, and what is the, you know, these stories of losing your virginity. And then here's a, you know, a plethora of stories of doing it in places that aren't the bedroom. Like, I think for me, it was very much out of curiosity. And naturally, I think for me, I, of course, start exploring my own body. And I think that for me, I always had this like, oh, it feels good, you know, and it feels a little bit weird. But I've always, and I still today, when it comes to self-pleasure, always have this like fear, like the fear of what's to come. And full disclosure, I've never made myself orgasm. I'm 23 today and I've never made myself orgasm. And for that reason, I like don't really masturbate myself, right? But that being said, I think even from a middle school age, it didn't mean that it didn't feel good and new, right? So I think that for me, I started to explore a little bit more, whether it be with pillows or myself. But honestly, I think I spent more time just reading out of curiosity, like not really exploring anything. And I think when a lot of people hear this and they're like, what? How could you not? Like, what's wrong? And to be honest, I think that there is still this traumatized part of me where that sensation of touching down there is reminiscent, especially at nighttime, of, you know, what I felt when, you know, trigger warning, sexual abuse, like what I felt growing up when I was being touched by my father, like going to sleep, right? And so I think that there's a part of me that always, you know, I labeled an orgasm as kind of this like exciting reward that I didn't want to reach because it was something that wasn't for me, but also that I think that there's this kind of fear of it. Like I still have it now when I'm like almost there and I just get scared. Like I'm scared that my body's going to crumble. I'm scared that like something's going to explode, and I'm kind of scared of what's to come. And you know, I'm still kind of trying to understand it. And sometimes I do get in this headspace of maybe there's something wrong with me. Like there's something wrong with the nerves down there. But I mean, maybe that's by definition what an orgasm is, right? It's this like huge burst of, you know, pleasure and energy. But for me, like I do genuinely have this like, oh my gosh, like I need to stop, right? This is something that, and it's not like not okay. It's just like I get kind of scared of it and I get kind of nervous. And then I think there's this also, you know, mental health side of it where my mind is just like kind of busy. Like I am thinking about, you know, I'm thinking about the story that I'm reading, you know, in middle school. But I get kind of carried away and like analyzing it. Like, oh, but why is that? Isn't that a little bit inappropriate? Like that's kind of disrespectful. Like, doesn't that hurt? Like there's this part of me where I'm always so curious about like over analyzing it. And then there's, you know, in my own body, like I already have a hard time being in my body and slowing down and being super present. And I feel like that's why like you know, orgasming and self-pleasure is so important for so many people, is that it's like the ultimate for you and in your body, which is honestly my biggest challenge, right? Like, you know, on the last episode, we talked about depersonalization, and like, to me, how am I supposed to feel my body if I can't feel my body? And I think even today, like if I try to pleasure myself, I'm like, oh, I'm wondering like what I'm going to do after this. Do I get back to work? Like I have 2 hours before my next meeting. Maybe I should like pull out my laptop. I can probably do a little bit more writing or, you know, some more emails. So I feel like even today I'm really working through this element of like not being able to focus in my body. Like it's that ADHD and depersonalization on a high, right? Where like I don't have that distraction in front of me. So I'm trying to focus on my body, but because my mental health has told me that self-pleasure is not something I deserve, I don't actually allocate the attention and time and, I think focus into really letting myself feel that.